There is an unprecedented mental health crisis in this country. How can churches rise to meet this challenge? Mental Health Ministry by Dr. Jared Pingleton is an innovative resource that shows churches how to effectively minister to hurting people. This book is a one-of-a-kind, biblically based, and real-world proven collection of practical ways that Christian ministries can make a very real difference in impacting the lives of those who are struggling with mental health. Available at Amazon, your local bookstore, or at trilogy.tv.
Hi everyone, I'm Erin Ramachandran, author of Mental Health Strong, and just want to say welcome to the Voices of Hope conference. We hope that you are feeling encouraged today and just getting a new perspective that the Lord is inspiring you with whoever you've listened to. So I want to thank you for investing in your relationships, your own health, and trying to grow and develop in this season. What I wanted to talk to you about is how to set boundaries when your spouse or loved one has a mental health or addiction challenge. I say this because I've been there. Your loved one is struggling. Your husband or wife is struggling. It is devastating to have your loved one struggling and to watch it over and over and over again. And then you have so much anger or frustration or resilience, and you just sometimes just want to give up and throw in the towel because you're like, is this ever going to change? Why me? What's going to happen? My husband struggles with obsessive compulsive disorder. He's been diagnosed with OCD. He's also been diagnosed with depression, panic disorder, post-traumatic stress disorder, and sometimes has suicidal thoughts. We have been married for 15 years and 10 of them were very difficult. In walking alongside my husband, I have struggled with burnout where I had to go on medical leave for 3 weeks because I struggled with codependency and it was affecting my mental health. Watching him continue to tank, watching another job loss, watching another time of hearing the compulsions in the house, the sounds, him getting stuck in the shower, him doing self-harm, you name it. It's happened. So I share that again, with permission from my husband to share our story, but to say that I get it. And when we think about that, of watching them, it just feels so hopeless. And that's really where I want to talk to you about this idea of boundaries, emotional boundaries. And it's learning this muscle about how you can walk alongside them as they are struggling and learning and building resilience and learning to recover with their mental health condition. And just like in my own struggles with my weight and codependency that I struggle with and my anger that I don't learn in just one shot, that's the same thing for Keith, my husband, who is taking steps forward and taking steps back. At one point, he had over 60 different compulsions he was doing. And then years later, when he had to go back into another intensive outpatient program, he was down to 20. And now, as he's done another intensive outpatient program years later, he's down to about 5. And working full-time for this past year, and really the healthiest he's ever been. But boundaries have been a huge part of my survival to thriving in this relationship. And one day we hope that these boundaries may not need to be there as much, where it turns to his self-management. But the boundaries are for me and how I can make sure that I don't lose myself in this marriage. So let's talk about what these boundaries actually are. So the first thing is a boundary. If you think about it on a physical boundary, we have boundaries for a door. It's locked so that someone can't come into my house. We have boundaries with fence, physical boundaries. You know that you can't go into a schoolyard at a certain period because of the fence. And emotional boundaries are putting protections up of what is mine, that I have a right to as a human being, a daughter of Christ, for you, a daughter of son of Christ, and that each person can make sure that they have. These boundaries are areas that I notice if Keith and I are getting into the same fight, or something is frustrating me over and over, or something is making me angry over and over, that's really a warning sign that something needs to change. Continuing to do the same thing over and over and expecting different results, right, is foolish. And so when I notice that the same thing's happening over and over, that's my aha. A boundary is likely needed. And again, a boundary is not to control Keith, a boundary is to control me. So let me give some examples of some boundaries that I've had to put in my life over the different time periods. And they change and evolve as we continue to grow in our relationship. First one is time management. My husband struggles with time management. I think many people with mental health conditions probably struggle with time management. It might be that they're not able to get out of bed, or they might be struggling in their mind, or they might be taking drinks. They're not able to sometimes fulfill their responsibilities or function. And it's impacting daily activities of living and impacting yours in regards to, we're a family, right? We depend on one another. We have responsibilities and we help one another. But when the conditions may not be managed well, they're not able to do that. So for us, I was noticing that we would be late to parties. Let's say we had a family function or to church, we would be late. And Keith always wanted to go with me, and I was almost even his help to get out of the house. But what I was noticing is sometimes I would be waiting 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, half an hour. There would be where he would say, I'm coming, 2 minutes, and he would still be in the shower. And it ended up getting where we would sometimes have seasons of maybe we only had one car to get there. And so I would feel bad if I left him, or I would feel shameful to show up at the party alone and people say, where's Keith? And so I had to work through all those emotions and realize that it's still important that Keith is responsible for getting himself out of the house, and I'm responsible for taking care of me. And if he's struggling, that doesn't mean I need to struggle. So prior to the next engagement we would have, I came up with this boundary of, Keith, I want you to know that I really value being on time. Value to me equals respect. And us showing up late is really hurting me. And I understand that culturally you struggle with time and you're struggling because of your condition, but this isn't working for me. And I would like that next time we need to go somewhere, that I am going to leave at the time, because it's important to me to get to church on time or get to the function on time. And if you're not ready, that's okay. You can either drive yourself, or we have a thing in America called Uber where he can call someone to give him a ride and have to pay for it. But this enabled where I was not angry. I was not kind of going back in the house and we might get in a fight, and allowing where I could show up and be able to do the day, and he would have to figure that out of how he could get there. Sometimes he made it, sometimes he didn't. And you have to deal with the disappointment of that he didn't make it. And we would talk about that and kind of rework at it. There's also been times where whatever boundary I put in place, it doesn't actually work for me. The emotions are still there, and that's okay. It's just like with any muscle, you have to continue to practice and continue to do that trial and error and continue to have it, to work it so that it can help. Another current boundary that I've put in place is I've noticed Keith, the few compulsions that he has left that he's struggling with, is his shower and shaving. This has become where it's very challenging for him to not have to shower. And he's been working with his therapist on that, and I greatly appreciate that. And what I've noticed inside of me is every time I hear water that he's going into the shower, like the emotions come up to my heart. My heart's racing. I feel it in a different way. And I've already done trauma therapy in regards to some self-harm he was doing in the shower. But at this stage in our marriage, now what I do is he has a right to shower, and I have a right to be outside when he's showering. So I go take a walk. Or he's worked with his therapist on what time he's allowed to shower. And he's like, is it always going to be this way where there's like this structure and boundary on my showers? And I said, no. One day you're going to have this where you're managing it. And you're going to have where it's not such this stronghold over you. And you're going to have some deliverance. And I say stronghold loosely from both a spiritual sense, but also a medical sense with knowing the disorder. But it does control his life, and he's working with that. But for me, I don't want to, the shower can manage his life, but it doesn't need to manage mine. And I need to make sure that I'm taking care of myself so that I can walk alongside him. If I don't do this, what happens if you don't put boundaries in your life? Well, I don't know about you, but at first I thought by giving more grace and just saying it's okay, eventually it came to resentment, anger, bitterness, overfunctioning, him then underfunctioning, responsibilities falling too much on me where it was way not equal. And at the end of the day, I lost my health. I was dealing with my emotions and my hurts by overeating. I was angry. I burnt out and was having trouble functioning and going to work and doing the things that I needed to do. And really learning boundaries and learning how to take care of myself so that I can be a loving partner, and also knowing how to have where this condition isn't taking over my life, and I can walk alongside and have a good day even if he's having a bad day. It's really those boundaries that helped me to get there. There are lots of books out there on boundaries. Counselors are able to help you with boundaries. There's even classes you can take on boundaries. And this is not something I really knew how to do in the beginning of our marriage, but it really was a key thing that helped me be able to kind of stay in this marriage and be able to have my own health not be impacted longer than it needed to be. So when you look at your own relationship, I would look at what is the thing that is the cycle that's happening over and over where you're having strong emotions. It might be where you're withdrawing. It might be where you're anger. You have frustration, sadness. You might be crying, withdrawing, escaping. Think about what that is. And whatever is brought to mind, I would ask the Lord, is that the thing that you need to start working on what a healthy boundary would be in that situation. And what can you do so that you are not losing yourself and allowing the other person to make the choices they need to make, but it's not impacting you. I just want to encourage you that, again, learning boundaries is a process, just like with any new muscle or skill that you're learning. And that to keep working through it and keep practicing, and eventually, if a boundary is like, nope, that didn't work, be like, that's fine, let me try a new one. And to keep working at them with different things. Maybe not take the hardest thing in your marriage and start with that. Maybe start with a more smaller one, and to work through them. If your partner or spouse gets discouraged with boundaries or says they don't like them, change back. You just say, I need these for me. And I love you and I want to be with you, but I need these in order to not have the condition be impacting where it's taking over my life as you're learning how to manage and thrive with your condition. And I need to thrive in learning how to walk alongside you. I hope this helps with just these simple examples of time management and showering that are ones that we have in our own marriage. And I hope that your marriage grows and that you continue to thrive together on this journey. As Keith says, don't give up, look up. We hope you have a wonderful rest of the day at the conference, and thank you for your gift of time today. Bye.
Thanks so much for listening to this presentation of Voices of Hope. We're thrilled to be providing this conference and the resources it has to offer. Fresh Hope for Mental Health is a faith-based mental health ministry offering support groups, free resources, and effective ministry programs, which are all based upon 25 years of clinical research. Support includes faith-based mental health support groups for adults and teens, both locally and online, trauma healing groups, hope coaching, a retreat for pastors and ministry leaders to process the wounds of ministry, plus help for widows. Fresh Hope also helps churches implement effective mental health ministries within their local settings and communities. You might say that Fresh Hope is a plug-and-play ministry for churches to embed into their ministry. Visit freshhope.us to find out more.